Okay, so welcome everybody to this podcast. Oh, sorry, it's not a podcast, to this webinar. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today is language that we've been developing around benefits, which I think is quite important for us in our jobs and the way we work. So just if you don't mind, bear with us a bit as we refine some of the language that we do use. Essentially, what we're going to be trying to address today is, has the benefit landscape changed to the extent from its early roots, where our language in selling these programs needs to adjust accordingly, along with the kinds of products and services that are now available. So essentially what we want to talk about today is the equality of utility versus access to benefit plans. And that will become more clear as we move into the presentation. So what we're going to be talking about today is the journey from 1919 and what 1919's legacy is. We're going to look at an innovation that's run its course. Where we are today, we're going to consider the diversity of our workforce today. Two primary issues we're going to deal with today in terms of benefits will be dealing with the diversity of the workforce, and that could be seen as a challenge or a problem in the market today, and as well as budget stability. There are others, but these are two major drivers that what we're going to be talking about today solve for. Essentially, what it comes down to is equal utility programs versus equal access programs. And that will become more clear as we speak. We'll also talk about volatile versus stable funding. And then we're going to get into the solution, which some of you may have seen before, which is the hybrid program. It's one solution. There are other flex type programs that solve, but the hybrid really is a very elegant solution. And I think it's largely language that we use today that we need to refine and develop as advisors and consultants for our clients, us to be able to do the best job that we can promoting these kinds of solutions in 2024 going forward. So the journey from 1919 and what's its legacy. Two really interesting images here, I think images that tell the story. One is a steam engine, which probably was a little later than 1919, although probably could have come out of that time period as well. Certainly a fantastic innovation in its time and in its generation, but a very heavy, very slow-moving, although powerful device or tool to solve a problem, moving people, moving product across great distances. And the telephone, the early phone, is also circa 1919, that image. So we want to relate that then to the first benefits. The first life insurance group life insurance contract in Canada was written in 1919. It's developed and innovated in a time when the workforce demographic was quite homogenous. Likely, although I've looked around quite a bit and tried to find information specific on the web, it is a little bit amorphous. However, largely male between the ages of 18 to say 50, very blue collar oriented, although there was white collar developing, and very line oriented. Even banks and financial institutions would have had huge bullpens and work floors with desks where numbers of people were working in uniformity. And the uniformity was required in order to be able to administer and manage the complexity of the kinds of financial instruments that were being implemented at the time. Think about a group life insurance contract and what would have been required to administer, record, store, file the information of that back in 1919. No computer systems, probably even filing cabinet systems that weren't as advanced as we had in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and have largely now become defunct. I mean, it's rare that you see them today. So that you needed hundreds of people moving paper, controlling paper, managing paper in order to make a group insurance program. So it required uniformity and conformity of the people that were doing the work. Then we got computer systems. They did come in as benefit plans actually developed through time. They were no longer just group life and health. And E&D was instituted, dependent life, disability benefits, extended health, dental, these things came about. And computer systems came on board. They could help to create more efficiency. However, the computer systems even that we dealt with and still are saddled to today were largely mainframe computers, not flexible, very rigid, requires the investment to support, maintain, manage, and then even to program. And today we've got computer systems that are, the whole computer framework at an enterprise level has changed. It's now software as a service largely on the cloud, far more flexible computing, etc. So computing of yesteryear was something that, while was innovative in its time, has probably run its course today and maybe even creating complexity and difficulty in the marketplace. Additionally, the pricing and methodologies of pricing group insurance plans was built in a different time from a distribution perspective. Insurance was sold largely as a product, not through a consultation, not a consultative sale. The salespeople were focused on product price. The insurance companies needed to create mechanisms and algorithms that included factors that would create room in the pricing for negotiation based on people, the negotiators, who were not necessarily informed and capable or competent at breaking down the back-end principles of how a group insurance contract was rated for. Experience rating in particular, which we know is health and dental. So the journey from 1919, while created tremendous innovation in our marketplace, gave us fantastic tools and products that solve problems in their time. The question that we have today is, has it run its course? And are there other ways to do things? So as an example, the telephone, if we go back to that wall-mounted, crank up, speaking to the phone, please connect me to extension 5 in town, through to these varying phones, these were, various modernizations of that same device, but essentially all functionally the same thing, a matter of transmitting voice from here to there over a wire. We could even add like the old Nokia phones, mobile phones to this. Analog, then they became digital, but really was single purpose. Maybe people started to use them for text messaging, but largely was a voice phone. And the question today is, would anybody go back to using these phones except, as Marnie said earlier, in an emergency situation where you had no other device? The question is has group insurance and the benefits innovation of 1919 that we've known for so many years, has it also run its course? It's changed, it's morphed, it's become more sleek. However, fundamentally transplanted by other. So where are we today? That same train, those same rails have been modernized, they've been updated. The trains don't look anything like they looked before. They're more efficient, they're faster, they're sleeker. The rails themselves are probably of different materials, etc., that facilitate a completely different experience in that regard. And the phone is no longer a phone. That iPhone is not a phone. It's a computer. We call it a phone, I think, through habit. Has anyone seen my phone? It's not a phone. That's probably its most dumb function, is its ability to carry our voice from one place to another. This thing does so many more things than that, as we all know. Marnie, you've got some comments, I think, to make about the phone.
Yeah, so I would just say to this, on the Apple phone, when we're talking about equal access and equal utility, when you purchase an iPhone, there are automatic apps that come with that phone. That's guaranteed. Everybody has them and they're there for a purpose. But my phone is completely different than your phone, David, to anybody else's phone on here, based on the apps that I'm using for my ease of purpose. And for what I want to follow or what I want to be able to download. So it's similar to what we're talking about, because when you get your iPhone, everybody's going to have static, same apps, but then how you use the ones that you want to download for yourself are because of your own personal use. So you could make an analogy very similar to what we're talking about today.
Amazing. So, the world that we live in today, as opposed to 1919, where we had a homogenous workforce, we've now got a very, very diverse workforce, age diversity. There's all kinds, family types, there's all kinds of diversity in the workforce, and clearly people with significantly different needs. And by the way, even in a homogenous workforce, the individuals would still have had different needs from each other. We found ourselves in a world today where we've got flexibility in plan designing. We've got digital tools that enable solutions that we simply couldn't even imagine 20, 30 years ago. We have complex benefit programs, disruptive plans coming on stream as well. And we've got more, let's say, up-to-date funding options for the way that we provide customers with employers with a mechanism of funding their benefit plans that may be more suited to their business needs, which we'll talk about momentarily. So again, as I said, I think we've got this program that started in 1919. We have this outstanding question, which is, has the program that was built in 1919 has run a course through the last 100 years, certainly solving problems and being very innovative in its time, but has the railway lines that's been running on perhaps come to one of those cul-de-sac dead ends, or that kind of stoppage with the train where it just no longer suits the needs, and that there are solutions today that have eclipsed that old technology. Employees all have different needs when it comes to health and wellness. And now we can do better than a one-size-fits-a-few employee benefits plan or equal access plan, as we'll discuss in a minute. So as I said, we're going to be dealing with these two glaring issues. One is solving for the diversity of the workforce and flexibility, and pricing, which is the next one. Budget stability then versus now. So this is a plan sponsor's perspective. We could imagine that 100 years ago, with less competition at a global scale, employers had more flexibility, more capacity to respond, more time to respond to issues of budget volatility. They could adjust pricing more easily. There was less competition, etc. And today the question would be, with such an interconnected world and businesses facing far greater uncertainty and the rapid changes that they're dealing with, is the need for stable budget capabilities today a greater imperative than it was? That's a question. Anecdotally, I can say when we talk to customers, they're all looking for budget stability. They're certainly looking to pay less, which is not always a doable thing. And they have a sense that that's not necessarily the right question. It can be if their plan isn't priced correctly. But most importantly, when it comes to price, what employers are looking for is stability. So what is equal access versus equal utility? The traditional group insurance plan, which is a defined benefit plan, really works according to Pareto. 80% of the costs of those plans is derived from 20% of the plan members, with give or take. Meaning the claims are driven by a small subset of the employees. Those claims drive the cost of the plans, as we know through experience rating. And those are prescribed benefits. So while we all have equal access in a prescribed benefit plan or in a defined benefit plan to the things that are covered, not all of us will have the same utility of that. We know that there are a chunk of people that will be able to use all kinds of things in there. but the vast majority will have a smaller set of benefits that they can actually benefit from within a defined benefit plan than the smaller subset that can. So the question becomes is, how do we move over to a more innovative plan that provides, that maximizes equal utility of the plan, where it's agnostic as to what your needs are, it makes available funds for you to be able to utilize it as an individual or as a family unit the way you particularly need to use it. So equal access plans, our contention is, may well becoming, they may have lived their course. They may have outlived their purpose. And while innovative in their time, solving a problem in the time with the technology available in the time and serving the workforce of the time, appropriate solutions. But the question is, for today, do we need to rethink the way that we do these? As far as volatile funding versus stable funding goes, the experience rating formulas that were built, as I mentioned a little earlier, were built in a different time for a different distribution methodology. And those formulas work on a very much an aggregate basis. They don't take really into account the specifics of a given individual customer. It's rare that you'll see a target loss ratio adjusting or the expense factor adjusting specifically in the moment for a given client. The trend factors that are applied for these plans are applied across the board. And the skewing of the formulas, if left on their own, if no advisor steps in the way to actually manage the renewal process, will drive rates up and up and up over time until these plans are totally overfunded. And I've been witness to this. I like to think that largely these formulas were created in a world where, again, our group insurance was sold as a product by people who are not expert in understanding the pricing. So the actuaries needed to build in a pricing model that protected their pools against or created buffers to cater to the negotiation process that would unfold in a product-based negotiation sale. Innovative plans today can provide funding options that limit the risk of volatility and also provide a lot more transparency and simplicity to the actual pricing and the underlying cost to the client. So this is where we talk about the hybrid. We're going to switch to the solution, which many of you, I believe, have seen before. What we do with a hybrid plan is we combine traditional insurance for the catastrophic needs. We would never want to see employees out of pocket for catastrophic situations necessarily. Employers will build plans that make sense for themselves. So on the insurance side, the pooled risk side, we would deal with things like life insurance, AD&D, dependent life, critical illness, long-term disability, short-term probably as well, travel, medical emergency, and catastrophic extended health. But everything else transactional would move over to a flexible spending account. And the flexible spending account is a mix of both taxable and tax-free health spending. We can do both. And we can even introduce the mechanism of flexible spending account to direct funds over to a group savings plan, which makes sense for some employees, thus catering to more and more, the individuals who need it. The health spending account people use the way they need for the expenses that are purposeful for them. The wellness spending account even opens up a set of additional things that will not be available in a typical group insurance contract, because now you can go spend it on wellness items that are not that don't attract the tax advantages of a group extended health and dental program. So now you're offering wellness spending as well for people that are not in the sick, not only looking for health benefits that treat them when they're sick and they need something as a reaction to a given condition, but want to keep well and keep healthy. It promotes them getting their gym memberships going, doing other things that will help them lead a healthy lifestyle. And then again, we can help them with their financial needs with regards to saving. So the hybrid benefit plan actually provides for equal utility because people will use it the way they want to instead of against a prescribed equal access plan. It does provide flexibility of the utility. There's protection, and it provides the employer with the cost control and stabilizes volatility. So all in all, it's a terrific solution to some glaring problems, which are more pronounced today than they even were 10, 15 years ago. The workforce today, post-digital economy, is largely different to what it was, even 20 years ago. The young people coming into the marketplace today, the workforce today, their needs are radically different. The way that they relate to their benefits is entirely different to the way even my generation certainly would have related to it. And being able to provide solutions that therefore speak to this variety of people is key, and being able to do it in a cost-stable way is very helpful. So understanding the risk and funding. If we look at this risk pyramid, at the top end, if you look at, the y-axis would be cost of a claim, and the x-axis would be the frequency of a claim. So you can see in the red area up top here, and the line would be cut off. This red-gray line that separates the two would be cut off. Different employers could determine what they view as low incidence, high risk, at what point that begins. And others would say, so you can move that line up and down a little depending on the use of the particulars of a given employer. But low incidence, high risk, for instance, a loss of life. There would be a low incidence but very high risk program. A Remicade claim or a high-cost drug claim might be low incidence but very high risk, although that drug issue is becoming, it is kind of crossing borders. It's becoming higher incidence and high risk financially, but still low risk in your day-to-day transactional drug claims. And then everything is in the bottom section is high incidence claims, but very low risk. In other words, they're small in cost and won't necessarily blow the budget. The question becomes is, why do we insure those? Why are we paying a heavy premium for insuring those in an experience-rated model? And is there another way to do it? Really, we could also term these as being transactional benefits at the bottom, and the top ones would be unpredictable, catastrophic claims that require pooling. So transactional claims do generally represent a manageable cost. The claims patterns can be somewhat unpredictable, but and a budgeting risk only in terms of, this year we might have this much claims, the next year a little bit lower, and that causes the volatility of the claims experience, but predictable enough to be able to determine an experience-rated formula. So low-cost drugs, paramedical visits, vision care, and most dental claims would fit into this piece. So the high incident or the low incidence, high risk are typically covered through pooled insurance, and the high incidence, low risk are typically funded through experience-rated insurance benefits. Again, equal access benefits or defined benefit plans. That's how they normally work. So it doesn't provide for the equal utility, but it does provide equal access, and then it creates the volatility of claims experience rating year to year. And this section at the bottom is the most expensive part of a benefit plan. These claims can count up to 95% of the cost of a benefit program. I would say anywhere between 75 to 95% of a given plan, depending on its design, are going to be driven by these high incidence, low cost claims that should be manageable at the individual level, that are not going to cause catastrophic financial pain. So an alternative to this is to remove these benefits from the equal access defined benefit plan and to move them over to an HSA or some of it over to a flexible spending account, and introduce a flexible spending account, which the employer would set the budget for. They don't have to change it every year unless they decide to increase that amount, and at the same time still insure the catastrophic events to protect employees in the real downside. That is the solution. So traditionally, we could see, for instance, a $25,000 life insurance benefit, similarly for critical illness, some LTD, and then you would see things in the extended healthcare where you would have the orthopedic shoes, orthotics, etc. You'd have paramedical services at $500. All of these transactional things could be removed. Leave the drug coverage in place, leave private nursing hospitals out of country all in place, and then take all this other transactional stuff out of the defined benefit plan, as well as the dental. That could then convert over to a health spending account, where, just as an example, in a flexible spending account, you could give a single person $850, $1,700, $2,125. This was actually a particular use case where we removed those benefits, converted the reduction in premium for the insured benefit over to flexible spending account dollars, and this is what happened for this this given employer. Marnie, have you got a comment about how you might, well, how you would talk to a client about this in terms of the utility of a hybrid plan, how you've seen it come up in the marketplace?
Yeah. So, firstly, great, two ways. Great for a startup company who's never had benefits before, to keep it stable, be competitive, and provide the flexibility while ensuring what they really want to insure, like the drugs and the catastrophic travel and all of that thing. So it's great for groups who've never had benefits before. But if we're talking about changing the conversation, and I think there's 104 people on this call, renewals can be tough. And just to give an example, right before we did this webinar, I was presenting a renewal on behalf of an advisor, and the conversation, it was an okay renewal. The renewal was okay. And while we were going through it, we were talking about, there's been a lot of usage in the vision care this year. There's been a ton of usage on the paramedicals, something to bring to attention. We went through the whole kind of renewal process, and at the end of it, I had asked them, do you have any questions, or is there something going on that maybe we want to talk about in terms of, what's going on in your own organization, or, maybe we need to do a marketing, or maybe we need to relook at some of the plan, the plan deviations on here. And she said to me, I'm thinking that, if my cost stability, or if my costs are going to go up, the last 3 years we've had anywhere between 12 to 17% increase. Is that something that I should be used to expecting based on the usage? And we went through it. We had the conversation, and I had said to her, but there are things in here that we could talk about. So if you're worrying about that, that increase or that budget on an ongoing basis, maybe we need to rethink and change the conversation here. And one thing that we could do is maybe remove, we could showcase all of it, or we could start small. So maybe we remove paramedicals and we remove vision and see what that looks like, or remove dental. And by the time we got through the whole conversation, which was leading up to this webinar, we've gone back to the insurance carrier to showcase what would this look like and what can we do in terms of an amount in a healthcare spending account, so that we're taking something away, but we're giving something back that's going to be effective for the employees that don't utilize those areas, but may need something else. And that the change in demographic in their organization is one where there's, people that are coming in that are more concerned about their gym memberships, as opposed to older employees who might be needing orthodontic coverage for their kids, and that's not even on the plan. So it's kind of rethinking and providing cost stability, but flexibility. And that just actually happened right before this webinar. So it's something about advisors understanding and the need for changing the conversation.
Outstanding example. Thank you. So the point being, I think that employers are starting to face the need to democratize the utility of their benefit spend. It's part of their budget. It's part of their employment contract with their workforce. Is they've got dollars that are set aside to support their employees with health and wellness plus. And in many cases, the vast majority of that budget is serving the needs of a minority of their people. And so by moving away from equal access plans towards more equal utility plans, it's democratizing that opportunity for more employees to use the plan and helping employers achieve their goals in creating these benefit plans, compensating their employees in a robust way. And in fact, we would even go as far as to say it's advisable that advisors today start to have that conversation with an employer about what is their strategic purpose in having a benefit plan. What they're trying to achieve with that in terms of business outcomes themselves. And as they say, dollars to donuts, I think you would find that equal utility plans more often will serve those needs that they have, those objectives that they have, than will an equal access plan. So there are advantages for both the employers and the plan members. They're suitable for new plans and for traditional plans. Certainly for new plans, I would strongly recommend employers, advisors talking to employers that are just starting to look at setting up a plan for the first time, that they start with equal utility. It makes so much more sense than going into an older, defined benefit experience-rated program. It solves so many problems and it sets expectations appropriately right from the beginning. So while they are suitable for existing plans, certainly for new plans, I think it's almost a no-brainer that become the primary presentation, obviously backed up by traditional quotes if necessary as well. So it's a very exciting time. We think that the language of these presentations is very important. We've worked hard to figure out that some of the fundamental differences between traditional plans and some of these more innovative plans is this notion of equal access versus equal utility. We believe that that has a purpose in the world, in the employment world today. And we're really pleased to share these ideas and this thinking with you, and we hope it's helpful. So if anyone has any questions, please pop them up in the webinar chat. Otherwise, that's it. The presentation was all of 33 minutes, and we've run our course here. So the question from Mark Levitt: can the hybrid coverage be geared to any size of plan? In fact, there are other markets in the world where it is actually it's spread across all kinds of plans. You certainly could use it. Larger enterprise-sized companies may push back on it because they just have the jets to do a whole bunch more. They might be looking at insured flex plans and then adding on the health spending accounts, flexible spending accounts to boost the merits of that. But certainly in the standard SMB market, no, for sure. I believe they've got utility across the board of client sizes. I think what's key to determining the efficacy is the client's needs, which require a proper discovery process with customer, and that's where I would point to the ideal group is focusing the solution on the needs of the given customer to determine are they an ideal candidate for the solution rather than looking at size. But Mark, your question is a fair one. I just think it has efficacy across the board, certainly in the micro market. I'm not sure why an employer starting a plan today would even consider getting into a highly volatile, one-size-fits-a-few program. I just don't see why they would start there.
Can I make a comment on that? What I want to say is when we're working with advisors or advisors yourself that are doing a discovery or trying to find out some objectives around clients, it used to be, I've said this before in other webinars, but it used to be that, employees would come to, when they were applying for a job, would go to the owner or the HR person and say, the questions are, how much am I getting paid? How much vacation time do I get? And and do you have a benefit program? And now employees are, when they're applying for a job, the questions are, how much am I getting paid? What is my vacation time? Can I work from home? What do you have a benefit plan? What type of benefit plan do you have? And we've been seeing that when we do a discovery, it's employers asking, like, are there other options? Because I need to be competitive in a market space, because finding employees is hard and they're looking for something different. So those are questions. And I think that goes back to, from the phones, the 1919 versus what's going on. Even employees are asking more out of their employer as well. So just something, food for thought, rather.
Thanks for the question, Mark. Is there anybody else? Does anyone else have any questions? If not, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day. We know it's busy. We've got a thank you for that, Gordon. I will say that we have a maxim here that if we're going to do these, Matthew, you can contact Marnie, or Marnie, can you put up your email address over here quickly?
Yeah,
in
I'll
the
put it
chat.
in the chat.
Yeah, and then we'll connect you with your appropriate BDE if it's not Marnie. I will say that we have a maxim here. We understand that everybody's time is valuable, so we make an effort to ensure that presentations that we actually have to take a feather out of what was his name? I've forgotten his name. A sportscaster, Jim Rome. He used to say, "You're welcome to come on as a guest, but you better have a take and not suck." So we hope that today we had a take that is valuable. We are maybe a little bit slow and clumsy in making the point, but we hope it's helpful and that it does provide a fresh way of viewing benefits, a new way of thinking, and that our take did not suck and that your time was well spent. So we really appreciate you all joining here. You have the email. Matthew, I hope that you've got Marnie's email. And with that, everybody, thanks so much for attending. And we look forward to doing business with you.